Jordan Sheridan, live from the mothership. It is Tuesday, December 11th, 2018, and I am but just a humble man trying to fight the oligarchy. It's already dark in New York City, and frankly, I would say darker in our Democratic Republic, as they call it. Let's see. We are, all right, got 27 people live at the start. I've noticed yesterday and apparently today too, we're starting off a little less than usual. Unfortunately, even a channel that's about to hit 23,000 subscribers in this new age of YouTube, or as I like to call it, FuTube. Unfortunately, even with a channel that subscribers are growing very quickly, people don't get notified, sometimes until a half hour into the live stream, sometimes the next day when folks like me are live. So very, very unfortunate, but we just have to keep going and barrel through anyway. So for those of you here, definitely press the share button so we can get this out to as many people as possible. It's quite the day in the news. Witchy says, screw YouTube. I agree. I'm getting sick and tired of YouTube. And as we grow, we will be focused a lot more on trying to get traffic to our website, statuscoup.com, which if that's not bookmarked yet, if you don't have statuscoup.com bookmarked and you're not going to it regularly, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, Wesley Monroe says, hit the bell for notifications. Unfortunately, Wesley Monroe, you would think that being a subscriber to this or other channels and then clicking the bell and asking for all notifications, you would think that does the trick so that you would get a notification when your channels that you like or subscribe to are live. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. Unfortunately, that doesn't even work on YouTube. I can't tell you how many people who are subscribers and click all notifications don't get notified. Ty, who's our cameraman and editor, literally, he's part of the channel. He just clicked on notifications. Sometimes he's live with me, and he gets a notification the next day. It's unbelievable. It's intentional from YouTube, but whatever. Doesn't make a difference. So, well, it does make a difference, but we just have to continue on. So, Colin made this handy checklist. Here's the checklist at the beginning of each live stream. Well, you got to like the live stream. The more people that click that like button, the more people that like a stream, for whatever reason in YouTube's algorithm, it gets seen more and shows up in more people's feeds. So press the like button if you can. Go to statuscoup.com and check out our membership section. You can become a member at $5 a month. You can become a member at $10 a month. I'm going to play for you some of our member content today. Not the whole thing, but I'm going to play a few clips to show you what you get for being a member. And we really are encouraging membership because that's the way we're going to grow our business and be sustainable as a business. Paid membership monthly, $5 a month, $10 a month. You get a bunch of bonus content, special content, behind the scenes, all that good stuff. And we don't want to be dependent on corporate sponsors, corporations, special interests. Not doing it. No way, no how. We want to be dependent on you, the viewer. So we hope you could factor us into your budget. Also, follow us on Twitter at statuscoup. We're tweeting from statuscoup. And we also have a podcast. So that's another way we're going to try and grow and drive revenue. So there is the link to our podcast, bit.ly/statuscoup podcast. Subscribe to that podcast and then do the whole, rate it 5 stars, because that's how we'll get up there on iTunes. And you could like us on Facebook, even though Facebook is pretty evil in my view. Facebook.com/statuscoup. So there's a checklist. I'm going to show you this checklist until I drill it into your mind every single day. 5 o'clock Eastern, I'm live. Like the live stream. I only see 16 likes. There's 40 watching. So each person, press the like button. Let's get this to more people. So Oh, Antonio says, hey, Status Quo, is there a member email list members could sign up to, or isn't there one yet? Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, Antonio. Yes, we have an email list. I should have added that. To this checklist. Go to statusquo.com where you will get a pop-up to enter your email. Jen sends out our emails. I'd say we email like once or twice a week. Sometimes we email begging for money, and sometimes you get emails with specific content. But yes, join our email list. And for members, we're going to be doing a monthly newsletter. Where members, I believe at the $5 level, get a special monthly newsletter with actual news. Some of it will be original reporting, and some of it will be stories that no one else is covering. So we're going to do that monthly newsletter. And thank you, Squirrel Lips. You are a godsend. Squirrel Lips getting us started in the Super Chat. This is a Super Chat. That's another way we're going to grow. We obviously need revenue to feed myself, Jen, and Ty, and have money to go in the field. So thank you, Squirrel Lips, $1.99 on the Super Chat. And as a reminder to everyone, Endo, are you going to sell official coup tittles? I don't know what that means. Tittles? I don't know what a tittle is. As a reminder, we are very, very aggressively trying to raise money through our GoFundMe. So we have not raised a damn dollar today. So some days are, slower than others. We have raised $26,429 in 3 months. We are over halfway past. We're past the halfway point. Our goal is $50,000. We have gotten amazing contributions from 469 people. I want to get that to 500 people as soon as possible. Our goal for the end of this month, and meaning the end of this year, is $30,000 on the GoFundMe, and we want to get up to 100 paid members. We have, I believe, 35 members so far on our website, and of course that doesn't include patrons. We have, I think, 360 patrons. Patrons could stay a Patreon. You're going to get the same content members are getting. But if you're not a patron, we really, really encourage you to sign up as a member at statusquo.com. But that's separate from the GoFundMe. The GoFundMe is really, really focused on growing money specifically to go in the field. It might look like we have all this money to play around with, but that $26,429 isn't only going to in-the-field reporting. That's going so we have an advertising and marketing budget. That's going hopefully to be able to hire a little help. We need more staff. And of course, that's going in addition to the advertising, to the in the field. We have a little extra equipment needs we need. So it's not all in the field reporting, but it predominantly, if we get to $50,000, we will have a very, very nice runway to get out in the field more and stay out in the field. Right now, I would love to go cover the undemocratic treachery going on in Wisconsin and Michigan, where Republicans who lost governor's races, they lost attorney general's races, they lost a lot of other races, are literally rewriting the laws as we speak. So to kind of strip the Democrats of their powers, to strip the new governor of Wisconsin, in Scott Walker ravaged Wisconsin, that is, of his power, that would be Tony Evers, and to strip Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan of her power, who just got elected governor of Michigan. Regardless of whether you like these Democrats, they're both pretty much centrist to moderate Democrats. It's not about that. It's about, do we have a democracy or do we not? Because contrary to popular belief, the real threat to democracy is not the Russian boogeyman. It's our corrupt politicians. So would love, if we could get that up to closer to 30,000 quicker, we would definitely be on the ground in Wisconsin if we could. So definitely, you're not deterring you from contributing to the Super Chat, but we prefer contributions to the GoFundMe if you could do it. Endo, I want Grandmaster Coup. Don't know what that means, but okay. So, press the share button. I'm not even gonna get into the theatrics that went on in the White House today, where Trump had a meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Clearly, the meeting was all for show, so Trump could, make it look like, the caravan's coming again and the border, they're rushing in the border and all this nonsense. I'm not going to cover it because it's all for theatrics. And honestly, they're going to have Trump wants a government shutdown to make it look, to gin up his base, that the Democrats won't build the wall, blah, blah, blah. It's all nonsense. Of course, the cable news, they're going to have the shutdown clock. It's all theatrics. It's good for ratings, blah, 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 blah. Real people will be affected with a government shutdown, but I'm not going to cover it because it's kind of ridiculous, the whole thing. Chuck and Nancy want to blame it on Trump. Trump says, sure, I'll take the blame for a government shutdown, because actually a government shutdown will be good for Trump, because Trump could paint it as, oh, these Democrats, they're pro-open borders and blah, 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 so I'm going to be tough and shut down the government. It's all nonsense in my view, so I'm not going to waste my time on it. But what I do find interesting, and I missed some of this while I was on vacation, and again, press the share button because we're unfortunately being suppressed, and press the like button to get this to more people. I missed while I was on vacation, Beto Mania, Beto O'Rourke. He's honestly, I could really compare it to Obama in 2007 and 2008. The Obama mania. Beto is white, obviously, but very, very similar, the parallels, where, this charismatic guy, he's so, he sounds like the everyman, and it's very Bobby Kennedy-esque when Bobby ran before he was assassinated. He's standing on cars and talking to the people and all this, and it just really warms your heart. This guy, Beto, he's been painted as the everyman and a super progressive and blah, blah, blah. I did a report on statuscoup.com before the Texas election where he lost by 2 points, basically pointing out, like, hey, I'm sorry, but Beto, he's during the campaign, he's doing fundraisers with like major fossil fuel lobbyists. And he's doing fundraisers with, executives at JP Morgan and Wall Street, the same executives that destroyed the global economy 10 years ago. So he might be talking, I'm not going to take money from corporations and this and that, but it doesn't exactly match the record. And he is having fundraisers with the same usual suspects that he's talking like he's going to go against. So it's always follow the money, folks. And I try to do that, whether it's the Democrats, whether it's the Republicans, they're both corrupt. It's very simple. You just follow the money. So while I was gone, apparently more journalists are, frankly, starting to wake up, because I was calling out this Beto nonsense during the campaign. We broke that story at Status Coup about his fundraisers with lobbyists. Jen, if you don't mind finding that one and putting the link in there for people that didn't read it. So, now more journalists are starting to pay attention and starting to point out, like, hey, do a little research. He's not this super, super progressive you think he is. So, while I was gone, a journalist at the Washington Post, Elizabeth Brunig, she's an opinion columnist there. She's fairly progressive. She wrote a piece. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but bottom line, here's the headline. Why this progressive Texan can't get excited about Beto O'Rourke. And she wrote, if only the electric chill in the air were an augur of fast-approaching holidays and not the static generated by so many Democrat 2020 presidential candidates. I'm going to move on. There's no denying that the O'Rourke campaign was genuinely impressive. With the help of Bernie Sanders organizers, O'Rourke's team built a grassroots army that put democracy, talking to constituents, listening to the point of view, inviting them to participate in the process, not by mass mail, but by name first. People were genuinely inspired. But in the meantime, though, we have the national election to think about, and O'Rourke is plainly uninspiring. As Zaid Gilani pointed out at Current Affairs, O'Rourke's congressional voting record signals skepticism about progressive priorities. Quote, while the Democratic base is coalescing around single-payer health care and free college, O'Rourke sponsored neither House bill. During his time in Congress, he never joined the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Instead, O'Rourke is a member of the New Democratic Coalition, a centrist caucus, with Clintonian views on health care, education, and trade. Woo! So, this isn't exactly like a scorched earth piece of journalism against Beto. She says, yeah, he ran an inspired campaign. He did a lot of grassroots organizing and yada, yada, yada. But, you know, look at his voting record. And for that, woo, boy, did she take a lot of heat. I was on vacation, so I didn't really see all of this while it was happening in real time. But let's just say, you know, our favorite fake progressive, Neera Tanden, with the Center for, what is it? The Center for American Progress? The Center for American Progress? Jen, I was talking about the link to the original reporting I did on statuscoup.com about Beto's fundraisers with fossil fuel lobbyists. I'm going to forget when you say you're not listening during my live stream, by the way. And Chuck E. Cheese, I agree. Beto was 1,000 times better than Cruz. I put that in the story. If I lived in Texas, I would vote for Beto O'Rourke, even though he's doing lobbyists with fossil fuels, fundraisers with fossil fuel lobbyists, because frankly, I would vote for an alien over Ted Cruz. However, so more journalists are starting to point out, well, you know, the actual voting record doesn't particularly match, you know, the progressive platitudes he's putting out there. Now, there's a new piece out, which I thought was really good. This is by blah, 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 blah. Alex Koch. He said, Beto got 430,000 from individuals in oil and gas. Should we care? A distinction, individuals. He didn't take corporate PAC money, which, you know, is a step in the right direction. So Alex writes, it all started with one Sunday morning tweet from an investigative reporter, David Sirota. On December 2nd, Sirota was browsing through OpenSecrets.org, the most popular website for campaign finance data. On its oil and gas page, Sirota found something that surprised him. Out of all federal candidates in the 2018 election cycle, Texas representative and candidate for Senate, O'Rourke, had the second highest total of donations linked to the oil and gas industry. Blah, 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 blah. So the tweet set off an online firestorm that lasted all week. I'm a money and politics reporter, and I got involved in some rather regrettable Twitter battles involving the tweet. But I also took it upon myself to dig a bit deeper. Based on detailed campaign finance data provided to me by the Center for Responsive Politics, the organization that operates Open Secrets website, I found that of the 430,000 that O'Rourke's Senate campaign received from individuals from the oil and gas industry, 75% has come in the form of large donations over $200. Well, that doesn't really match the rhetoric or the narrative that Beto was simply a small dollar fundraising machine, or that he isn't taking money from fossil fuel companies. 75% came from large donations, over $200 in the oil and gas industry. The donors include more than 24 oil and gas executives. I wouldn't classify oil and gas executives as small dollar donors. Would you? More than 30 donations were the maximum allowed amount of $2,700. So I can't do math, but 2,700 times 30, that's not chump change. But the Texas representative also took in tons of small donations of $200 and under. I also found O'Rourke broke the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge, a commitment to reject campaign donations over $200 from fossil fuel PACs and executives that was endorsed by 16 environmental groups, which he signed. This piece is an accounting and contextualization of the numbers behind O'Rourke. So great reporting by Alex over there. Let me put it here in the chat if you want to read this story. Blah, blah, blah. And so, a reminder, folks, this is a super chat, so show us the love if you can. The audience is a little lower than normal the last 2 days. Might have something to do with me openly criticizing YouTube constantly, and it's always interesting, not to deter from the subject, but whenever I email YouTube to demand an explanation for why my channel keeps growing in subscribers but going down in views, right after I send that email and they respond with a copy and paste email that they keep sending me over and over, the same email, all of a sudden live viewership goes down on YouTube. It's almost like there's a switch which a human is operating. Anyway, I digress. So there's a story if you want to read it. It's interesting to me. Again, I was on vacation when this whole brouhaha came. with the people that are coming out attacking that Washington Post columnist, Elizabeth Brunig, and attacking Alex. It's the same people that supported Hillary Clinton. I know it's the same people that supported Hillary Clinton, pushed the Bernie bro narrative, and have very, very much favored more neoliberal centrist candidates like Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Kirsten Gillibrand, led by Neera Tanden. And if you don't know Neera Tanden, basically she's the leading member of the neoliberal, centrist, really Republican, if you ask me, think tank crowd. A lot of these think tanks in D.C., heavily funded by special interests, by the way, write a lot of the, co-write, basically, a lot of the legislation that gets passed as progress in this country. So, Neera Tanden, she didn't like that Washington Post story on Beto O'Rourke, or Alex's piece pointing out that Beto broke his pledge to fossil fuel companies and all that. And for those of you that didn't watch yesterday, I'm a little insecure right now. I'm going to keep it real. I did not get in a bar fight or anything. I got badly sunburnt, which is starting to look a little better on my face, but I got a really bad sun blister too on my lip. So I didn't get in a bar fight, didn't get bitten by a shark. This is from sun because I'm a white, pale Jew who didn't put enough lotion on in very subtropical temperatures. So I hope it's not very grisly to watch me right now, but I have a cut on my lip. I got to admit. But here, Neera Tanden. So here is, this is not in order of tweets, but Neera wrote, Brunig's piece in the Post on Beto is just the latest attack by a supporter of Senator Sanders on Beto, joining Jelani, Jacobin, and Sirota. Feels a bit orchestrated, and clearly they are worried. So there's so many things I could respond about this tweet. First of all, when Neera Tanden talks about feels a little orchestrated, you literally work in hand with Correct the Record, an orchestrated network of paid trolls that go after progressives online. So I don't really want to hear you questioning if something's orchestrated or not. Oh my God, what a hypocrite. But Elizabeth Brunig's piece on the Post, which very gingerly pointed out that Beto O'Rourke's platitudes and rhetoric doesn't actually match his voting record, I don't consider that attack. That's just journalism. She's a columnist. She's giving her opinion based on facts. To Neera Tanden, this is an attack by a Bernie supporter and a coordinated ring of attacks from a Bernie supporter. That's really the pot calling the kettle black here, because Neera Tanden literally orchestrates attacks on progressives for a living. So that was the first tweet. Then, again, not in order, but you got David Sirota, great journalist, says, so basically, in the name of Democratic Party unity, Neera Tanden just ignited a legit scandal for Beto O'Rourke. Pretty incredible turn of events. And Sirota is responding to the other article that I'm talking about from Alex at Real Sludge, I believe. So Neera, and David says, Neera is slamming Washington Post columnist Elizabeth Brunig. It's almost as if Neera's think tank that is sponsored by Wall Street moguls and a foreign fossil fuel dictatorship, Saudi Arabia he's talking about, isn't actually a think tank, but is instead a corporate wing of a political party. And I got to tell you, one of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning, because I don't know what David Sirota does for a living, because he's literally, I think he tweets like 750 things a day. It's just a crazy amount of tweets. But I like his tweets, and I like his politics, and I like his reporting. But he's basically pointing out that, Neera Tanden, you're basically like a vessel for corrupt special interests. That's who's donating to you. And you're also, essentially, you are funded by Saudi Arabia, the Center for American Progress. So, Neera, I've seen this movie before. I wish you were chastising attacks on Democrats instead of this, but hope you're very well. She's not responding to David Sirota there. She's responding to somebody else who was in on this whole fight. So to Neera Tanden, no. You're not allowed to, quote, attack. It's not an attack to point out, hey, all these people talking about Beto O'Rourke, maybe you should look at his voting record. Maybe, and the fact that he's a part of a new Democrat coalition in Congress that's literally a centrist voting group of congressmen that literally is like fresh out of the Clinton department of politics. These are the centrist Democrats that Beto, as a congressman, was a part of that group. I call whatever it's called, New Democrat Coalition. It's not exactly an attack to say, hey, we think he ran an inspired campaign. This is what Elizabeth Brunig wrote. Yeah, he ran an inspired campaign, but I'm not exactly like getting up here excited for a 2020 run because look at his voting record. And then you have Alex, who wrote a piece basically pointing out, hey, this guy broke the no fossil fuel money pledge. He took, I believe, over 30 donations above $200 from oil and gas people, including 20 from fossil fuel executives. So it's not enough that you're just not taking corporate PAC money. You could be taking a lot of money from the very industries you say you're going to go after from executives or large donations from individuals in those networks. And I don't think those executives or those individuals from those organizations are donating to you because they want you to take down their industry or regulate their industries tighter. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say? And a reminder, folk, super chat, keep the love coming. This is a super chat. So, I just find the whole thing ridiculous and more of this nonsense, because if you dare report or write anything based on facts about Beto O'Rourke or any neoliberal centrist, Neera Tanden's coming after you. And Sirotto, again, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there are definitely some things to admire about Beto. However, he is not being helped by now being branded as the stalking horse of Neera Tanden and her Wall Street think tank. Oh, I love it. Keep it coming, Sirotto. And Neera says, defending a range of Democrats from attack is not an attack. As many know, I have defended Kamala, I won't indict Steve Mnuchin, Harris, and Cory Booker from attacks as well. Cory, I'll bend over for any Wall Street donation, Booker, that is. This is just the latest. I'm sorry those attacks on Democrats don't seem to bother you, but perhaps I'm misreading your tweet. So you're not allowed to, quote, point out any potential Democrat presidential candidates, the inconsistencies of their record and money they take from what they're saying rhetorically. And then she says, so great to hear from you, Helen Brosnan, been a long time. No one knows if Beto will run. If he runs, he'll have an agenda for the country. Feel free to judge it then. Seems a bit premature to judge before then. One possibility for criticism is to keep him out. And what's interesting? When Neera Tanden and her ilk, when they say no one runs, no one knows if he's going to run, that's actually a lie because it's currently speaking, Neera Tanden and her progressive think tank are actively trying to get him to run. They are actively trying to get people that they think can beat Trump, but they know won't actually really go after Wall Street or fossil fuel companies or their donors. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. We want to beat Trump, but we also don't want an actual progressive. So when she says nobody knows that Beto's going to run, no, that's not how this works. As we speak, the Center for American Progress, Neera Tanden, and their donors are trying to get Beto to run, to see how much money can he raise, because that's the first thing that these centrist neoliberal Democrats still think. How much money can we raise? Because they think money equals victory. Hillary Clinton showed you by outraising Donald Trump 2-1. Literally, she outraised Donald Trump 2-1. Money doesn't always equal victory. Of course, she did win the popular vote. We need to point that out. However, in America, stupidly and ridiculously, we don't go by the popular vote. We have an outdated, archaic electoral college. So it's just interesting when Neera Tanden says, oh, no, Beto can't attack him. It's an attack if you point out that he takes a lot of money from fossil fuels. He did take money from Wall Street, which I pointed out in my story. And, how dare you attack Beto O'Rourke? Because the truth is, They are actively trying to get him to run because Beto O'Rourke, and I'll be attacked for saying this, not about race, but it's just the fact, Beto O'Rourke is the next Barack Obama. Tell you the truth. And by the way, I got caught up in Obama just like many of you did in 2008. I don't even think Beto O'Rourke is as charismatic as Obama. But, he's a skinny dude. He is inspiring. He ran against, Ted Cruz, so that inflates your value in the first place. And he has a lot of similarities to Obama. Talks about tighter regulations on Wall Street while taking money from Wall Street. Talks about big oil and going after big oil while taking money from big oil. Talks about transcending our politics when he's literally just the same old in our politics. If you haven't learned anything from the last 20, 30 years of neoliberal Democrats parading around as progressives, has the income inequality shrunk? Because that chart is getting bigger, starting in 1981. And by the way, if you know political history, in the 80s was when the Clintons and the neoliberal centrist Democrats started gaining control of the party. Thank you, Notary S. $4.99. Just signed up for membership. Love the reporting. Notary S, I am proud to have you as one of the inaugural members of Status Quo. Inaugural members. You are now, I think, our 36th member. And it's not easy. It truly is not easy to get people, even people that support us and love the content, to put their money where their mouth is. And I know some people can't do $5 a month or $10 a month because their budget is so tight they can't even afford that. But I hope everybody watching understands my preference is not to go live every single day from where I live. My preference is to get out in the field, roll up my sleeves, and cover the disappearing middle class, cover environmental genocide, cover the minimum wage attacks, because minimum wage has been increased in many areas and now is being rolled back in many areas. And minimum wage increases have been voted on in a lot of areas and are now being blocked by state legislatures. I mean, I want to cover the pipelines. I want to cover water contamination, the police brutality, the local and state corruption. I want to cover it all. So does Ty, so does Jen. But we need the funding. So become a member. And I'm going to play after this segment a new member video. So you can kind of get a flavor for some of the content just for members. Now, to wrap this up, this segment, the bottom line is this. Beto O'Rourke is free to run for president, but enough from Neera Tanden, because the attacks from me and other progressives, they're coming. The attacks. Because when Cory Booker runs, when he's going to run, you better believe I'm going to report on his corruption. He might be a new, born again, he's like a born again progressive, now doesn't take corporate PAC money. Same thing with Kirsten Gillibrand. They found Jesus suddenly after Bernie Sanders made it a priority. And these politicians started being shamed for taking money from the very individuals and corporations that are destroying this country and destroying your life and making you live paycheck to paycheck. Suddenly, Kirsten Gillibrand, Cory Booker, they have found Jesus on money in politics. Not good enough. Kamala Harris, you've been a senator for 5 minutes. You didn't indict. You didn't prosecute Steve Mnuchin when you had an opportunity as California Attorney General. And frankly, what have you done as a senator? But they want Kamala Harris to run because if you report on Kamala Harris, if you report on her accurately and challenge her and the money she takes and all that, well, she's a woman and she's black. So you're going to be painted, myself and others are going to be painted as a racist and a sexist, and that's a 2 for 1. That's a two for 1. Oh, I'm taking that, Colin. Don't steal my born again progressive. I just coined it. So if anyone steals it, I did it. Now, I'm going to go after all these people because we don't have time for fake Republican. We don't have time for Republican lights masquerading as progressives in this country. That's not going to beat Trump. Not going to beat Trump. And it's also why we're in this situation. I'm seeing on Twitter, because I did a segment yesterday that, you're belittling Russia Gate and the seriousness of it and all this shit. No, I'm not. The point is, You cannot defeat extreme conservatism, which extreme conservatism is a large reason why we're in the economic bind as a country that we are. A lot of this started with Ronald Reagan, but you can't beat that. There's no strategy that will defeat extreme conservatism, because even with an Obama defeating a McCain, even with an Obama defeating a Mitt Romney, well, two historically weak candidates, by the way, Romney and McCain, even with that, you can't defeat extreme conservatism and the policies and unwind those policies with neoliberal policies, because neoliberalism is extreme conservatism. It only sounds gentler. That's the point. Neoliberalism is, generally speaking, not so different than extreme conservatism economically. It just sounds a lot softer and nicer to immigrants and minorities and women. That's the difference, folks. Redneck economics, we only have 10 years, according to Chris Hedges. You're right. And by the way, Redneck economics, do me a favor. If you have Chris Hedges on speed dial, can you ask him to respond to my emails? Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Big fan of Chris Hedges. I bought his book recently. He responded to one of my emails because I reached out to him. I wanted to interview him on his book. He responded, gave me, told me follow up with me next week, but said he would do it. But I haven't heard back from him since. So, not calling you out. Love Chris Hedges, big admirer. But I want to interview you. I've reached out like 7 times via email to follow up. So, did I do something? I don't know. Anyway, so I've reached out to him. I want to interview him. Big fan. So definitely let him know. So that's what I think about Neera Tanden. And that's what I think about these neoliberals pretending to be progressive. And they are the guardians. They're the guardians. So they are going to protect Beto and Kamala and Corey from Bernie bros and our attacks. No. Guess what? Neera Tanden, you supported Hillary Clinton. Your wing of the party lost to an orange orangutan, and now you need to shut the fuck up and go be quiet. Sorry. And because I just cursed, we got demonetized for this video. But I don't give a fuck. Fuck. Let us know. Super chat. Make up for our lost money. So, before I get on to the next topic, I want to show you, and as a reminder, folks, I know I'm throwing a lot of different things at you, but we are pushing the GoFundMe very, very hard. We are pushing this GoFundMe very, very hard. So if it's not too much trouble, you're free to leave a super chat, but definitely we prefer GoFundMe contributions. We're trying to get that number up. We want to get to 30,000 by the end of this month. So before I go on to another topic, I want to show you a little bit more of the behind the scenes content we're doing just for members. So definitely consider becoming a paid member. Here is editor Colin Tooley, who's one of our editors, giving you a little behind the scenes on his latest video that he edited, if I could find it. Hold on.
Hey, Status Quo members, it's Colin here again, the friendly neighborhood editor. And so right now I thought I'd show both two different things. One, because I'm working simultaneously on Jordan's live stream he did today, and also I'm going to put together another Your Brain on Corporate Media video. So I thought I'd show a little bit of both of those and what is going on with that. So first up, we got this guy. So I was going through, and so I was like, oh, I'll do a corporate media video here. I'll check CNN. And it was funny because I clicked on this first video, which is probably what I'm going to use, which is literally just a source says Trump is super pissed, which caught my attention. That's pretty hilarious. So it's a whole 3.5 minutes dedicated to an unnamed source saying that Trump is angry. So very breaking news. And then the video right next to it is another unnamed source that says Trump is concerned about impeachment. So they have two videos back to back. The next one's 4 minutes, 10 seconds long about the unnamed source. And so this is their, down here, I guess I'm covering it a little bit. Let me move myself down. Is their politics of the day, I suppose, gallery, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so technically, one of those videos is not Trump exactly. It's about Tapper, President Rubio, and impact of Cohen filing. Okay, I guess that's kind of. And then, no, that's awesome. And the White House Chief of Staff, which are all indirectly related to Trump. But every single one of these 15 videos was Trump related. So I was like, oh, geez, that's... and this first video will probably work fine, but at least I got something to work off of if I want something else. But really, 15 videos, politics of the day, and all 15 are Trump related. Nothing else is happening in politics, nothing politically related that could be impacting anything outside of that. So I just thought that was crazy just to look at. Like I said, I don't watch corporate news at all. And so I just get when I go to the website, and every time I go to these websites, it's literally, this is very similar to what I see every time. It's just like, so I'll probably use this clip of a source saying that Trump is, quote, super pissed, unquote. So obviously you need 3.5 minutes for that. And then right here, I thought I'd show, I'm just editing the live stream right here that Jordan did today, in case people are curious. It's basically a pretty straightforward process, as you'd imagine, and just taking the live stream and cutting it up. I go through and I'll chop out the bits where he'll maybe go be silent for a little bit, or go on a side tangent that isn't really related to the story itself necessarily, and so I'll watch and cut through those bits a bit. When he reads his stories, instead of having him scroll with all the different ads that pop up and all that, I'll basically just screenshot the article he's looking at and drag those images over. And all the graphics here are done by Ty. They sent over for the titles and stuff, that and this overlay. So I just port those in from Ty and line everything correctly, and then I separate it by story. So we got this first one where he's talking about the Russia hysteria right now. I think the next one is Julian Assange, and I forget what his last story was, but I'll cut into those different bits, and then if it's a real long story like his first bit here, I'll cut that in half or in thirds if needed. If he usually change his subject of what he's focusing on, like he'll be focusing on the media's handling of Russia.
Sorry to cut off Colin and his cat Fury, who I think, honestly, if I could get Fury on the payroll, I will. But this is what, in the business, this is what we call a tease. A tease. So if you want to watch the whole thing, go become a member at statuscoup.com. I also just did a behind-the-scenes video today, where I take you a little behind the scenes of some things we're working on behind the scenes, including I might be writing a piece for a rather large outlet about our Flint story. We're trying to get that in the works too. So definitely consider becoming a member at statuscoup.com. And literally, my case in point, Naturally Malika just shows up. I just got a notification. She just got a notification about an hour into this live stream. Thank you, YouTube, you fucking assholes. Naturally Malika, not mad at you for coming late. It's not your fault. It's YouTube's fault. Just keeping it real. So, definitely, statuscoup.com for cool content from Colin. Ty is going to be doing some behind-the-scenes videos. Jen's going to be doing behind-the-scenes videos, as am I. And as a member, you also get our podcast and a lot of different things. So, definitely go check it out. And for those of you who don't know, I'm live every day, 5 o'clock Eastern. So, be here or be square. Now, moving on. While I was away, Phil just said, still no notification. Yeah, it's super strange. YouTube, it's like they don't want people to watch. I don't understand. I do understand it. Oh, what happened to your mic? What happened to my mic? I forgot to bring it back. It's like YouTube just doesn't want people to watch the channels that they subscribe to, which is kind of called censorship. Because they do want people to watch like CNN's channel and like corporate content, because that their advertisers like. But channels like mine, Jimmy, Lee Camp, Kyle Kalinske, Humanist Report, Those, you don't get a notification, blah, blah, blah. So I hope, drill it into your head. Drill it into your head. I'm live at 5 o'clock Eastern every single night. Put it in your calendar. 5 o'clock Eastern every single night. And for the very foreseeable future, noon Eastern, Sundays. Look at that. Colin made this too. Noon Eastern time, including this Sunday, I will be live for a Sunday super duper duper chat marathon. We call it Sunday Super Chat Marathon, but it's really to raise money for the GoFundMe. So there's a link to the GoFundMe, and obviously it'll be at youtube.com/statusquo. I will be live at noon. We will have contributions from Jen and Ty as well. So, 5 o'clock Eastern every single day, Sundays, noon Eastern time. Be there or fuck off, if you ask me. So the three cours, I like that. So while I was away, there's also a growing populist movement in France. So we already saw Brexit, which frankly, if you pay attention to what's going on in Great Britain, I think they're trying to get out of Brexit. I think the elites, the elite politicians are trying to get out of Brexit, if you ask me. But in France and in Paris, there have been protests starting when I was away on vacation. And of course, you know, idiot journalists and neoliberals like Neera Tanden are making the protests out to be all about exclusively, why are these protesters protesting a carbon tax, which is good for our planet? Of course, that's not what all the protests are about. Not even close. So, French President Macron has basically done a lot of neoliberal stuff. And this isn't just Macron. Before Macron, France, like Great Britain, has a lot of similarities to America. The rich are getting richer. The politicians are doing things for the people who donate to them and the corporations, and they're not actually doing anything for the people they represent. So France has seen, price hikes, stagnant wages, very similar things to the United States. So here is just one example of what you're seeing as far as the protesters protesting in France. And that's from our Russian spy friends at RT. Thank you to them. Now, do sane people think that what they just saw over the last week or so is just over a carbon tax? No. And by the way, the police, like in America, are beating the living shit out of a majority peaceful protesters in France. But if you follow interviews from a lot of these yellow jacket protesters, are they yellow jackets or yellow vests? I always get that confused. I think it's yellow vest. If you follow interviews, if you follow tweets, these are people that have very similar stories to you and to me and to other Americans. Gilets jaunes, yellow vests. Thanks. I've watched interviews with, mothers who are working 2 jobs and barely getting by with the high prices for things in France. I've watched interviews where people are complaining that Macron is to tackle climate change is increasing prices on middle class people rather than the corporations and the wealthy. Sound familiar? Sound familiar to America? Oh, we're going to tackle climate change. We're going to tackle, greed. We're going to tackle this. We're going to tackle that. Here's a tax increase on you workers. But we're not going to tax the rich. We're actually going to cut taxes for the rich and the corporations. Same thing happening in France. Same thing. And again, have to say hi to my friend Neera Tanden. Again, Neera Tanden. I just don't understand why any progressive is cheering French protesters who are massing against a carbon tax. Oh, God. Oh, God. Because, A, since you're not a progressive and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, it's not over exclusively a tax, carbon tax. Michael Cooper, he gave the 1%ers a tax cut too. Thank you very much. It's really, stronger coffee, much better wine and bread, but similar story economically to America. Just keeping it real. Corporate welfare. The corporations are literally running the government in France, just like they're running the government here. And to offset budget problems and debt, we're going to tax the workers. We're going to take away worker benefits. We're going to tax them more while cutting taxes for our special interest donors. Michael Cuba. Macron is basically France's Hillary. Yeah. Yep. Well put. So, here's from the BBC. Macron promises to raise wages. He's going to raise wages, Macron says. How? We'll tell you later. France's President Emmanuel Macron has promised a minimum wage rise and tax concessions in response to weeks of violent protests. And all the media, they always put violence protests. Well, yeah, it's kind of violent when the police are literally beating the living hell out of peaceful protesters. Yes, there's some looting. Yes, there's some protesters who are, more aggressive, but it becomes violent when the police are literally, to intimidate and silence dissent, beating the living hell out of majority unarmed people. Very similar to the U.S. And they are armed to the teeth, like a military occupation in France, like in Standing Rock and other places in America. France has seen 4 weekends of violent protests against fuel tax rises, living costs, and other issues. So maybe, somebody could alert Neera Tanden and other Hillbots. It's not just over a carbon tax. Speaking in a televised address, Macron condemned the violence but said the protesters' anger was deep and in many ways legitimate. The minimum wage would increase by £100 per month from 2019, he said. I always get that wrong. Is that euros or pounds? I think it's pounds. A planned tax increase for low-income pensioners would be canceled. That's good. Overtime pay would no longer be taxed, and employers would be encouraged to pay a tax-free end-of-year bonus to employees, he added. Encouraged. I'm sure they'll take you up on that, Macron. However, he refused to reinstate a tax on the wealthy, saying this would weaken us. We need to create jobs. Oh. He's borrowing, he's borrowing from Republicans in America. Oh, those generous job creators. Those generous job creators. We cannot tax them because they create so many jobs. Well, maybe if they were creating livable wage jobs, you wouldn't be having the protests in the first place. Because that's the dirty little secret. And it's not just a secret. Corporations go out of their way not to create jobs, whether in America or France. They want to do as much as they can and get as much productivity as possible, even if they have to kill their workers to get it, with the fewest amount of workers as possible. It's called maximizing profits, because they don't care about their workers in France, in America, and in Europe, frankly, because greed is good. Began in the 80s, all the way through to 2018. The minimum wage will be increased by 7%, and the cost of this increase will be met by the government rather than employers, he says. Government Minister Oliver Dussopt told broadcaster BFM-TV the total cost of all the measures is likely to be between 8 billion and 10 billion pounds. OTR Trucker, $10 in the super chat. Yes, a right-wing government has come to save me from socialism. Yeah, they cut taxes for the rich. Here comes the trickle. Wait, what happened to my job? Whoa, neoliberalism really does suck. That's right. And OTR Trucker, I think you're coming from there too, so you know what you're talking about. We're in the process of fine-tuning and to see how to finance it, he added. Macron had no choice. They wanted more than just a political promise. They wanted measures, banknotes in their pockets, a tangible change in their impoverished daily lives. President Macron got the message. In fact, he had no choice. To have blethered about future challenges and the need for nation building would have driven the yellow vest to distraction. So here, at the core of the address, were 4 simple changes. A rise in the minimum wage, the removal of tax and social charges on overtime, encouragement to employers to give workers a tax-free bonus, and an end to a surcharge on most pensions. Plus, a note of contrition and a promise of a new, quote, national contract. Oh, please. Built on electoral change and wider consultation with the provinces. You know, talk is cheap. I'll believe all of this talk when I see it implemented in France. But the wider problem in France, in America, and the rest of Europe, workers don't need one-time bonuses, and that would be lovely. But that's not going to dramatically change anyone's life, especially people that are living paycheck to paycheck, because as their productivity has risen, the greedy corporations that have bought off the government in America, and frankly in France too, as their productivity rises, the wages do not, because there's not any mandate on employers to raise wages along with productivity, to raise wages along with inflation. Boofire says, my son says the number of tabs Jordan always has open gives him anxiety. Me too. Me too. Probably Gen 3. So, you know, giving a one-time bonus is not a progressive economic policy. You know what is? Permanent minimum wage increases that cannot be repealed. Minimum wage increases that match the rise in productivity and inflation. Actual government programs to invest in communities that have fell behind, and government programs that provide jobs like FDR did and more progressive leaders in France once did. I'm not going to pretend that I know French politics as well as American politics, but I do know that there have been more progressive leaders in France that invested in jobs for workers. And guess what? It worked out. And by the way, it seems before I went live, there was a mass shooting in France. I don't know the details, but there was a mass shooting in France. Not sure if it's involved with the yellow vest movement. We'll find out. So it's very, you know, when you provide tax cuts for the wealthy who then don't create a surplus of jobs, when you let companies offshore industrial jobs to other countries like Mexico, China, that's happening in France too, where industry is being offshored. When the politicians are bought off by the companies and the corporations, when you make it more expensive for workers to have pensions because they have to pay more into it, for workers to have health care because they have to pay more into it, guess what? Eventually, workers get fed up and protest. So I say vive la France. I say protest until Macron delivers. I don't want to just hear the talk about the minimum wage increase. I don't want to just hear the talk about removing these extra taxes on workers. And I want more protests until he raises the tax on the job creators. I don't want to hear, oh, we advise you to give your workers a bonus. Make them give them a bonus. And raise taxes on these companies, particularly the energy companies, for the carbon tax. Raise their taxes. If they want to release greenhouse gases, if they want to destroy this planet, then they need to pay for it. Period. End of story. Notary S says, real jobs, too, not just fast food jobs for the elderly. Those make our unemployment rate low and give the impression of a strong economy? Correct. Tim Buck, your show is on fire, Jordan. Thank you. Let us know how you feel in the Super Chat or the GoFundMe. As a reminder, this is a Super Chat. Nobody's leaving any money, so I guess you're only feeling okay and not super. And we're trying to raise money to get out in the field. Hey, maybe one day we'll go to France. So, you know, even $5, $10, $15, $20 makes a difference. There's the GoFundMe. Jen will put the link in there. And thanks for the update. 4 dead and 11 wounded in Stroudsburg shooting at the Christmas market. That's from PBS NewsHour, and I don't know, because I'm live, I don't know anything other than those numbers. How many shooters there were, what the motive was, we don't know. So, I'll continue following the populist uprisings in France. Obviously, there's still stuff going on in Great Britain, because we are all one interconnected world, and progressive outrage and progressive populist protest is rising in France, is rising in Great Britain, is obviously rising here in America, and you're going to see it in a lot of more third world countries as well against corrupt governments. Illustrator Anonymous, gonna donate on Friday. Scouts honor, even though I'm no scout. Hey, no scouts are welcome too. You don't need to be a Boy Scout to donate. But thank you, Illustrator. I've heard people say we're waiting for our tax returns, this and that. No problem. And obviously, if you can't donate because, you're squeezed, we don't want to put anyone out. If you can, you're not donating to, like, our casino budget. You're donating so we can get back in the field. So, one last story. And again, if you didn't see our checklist, if you came to this late, our checklist, you got to like this live stream. The more people who like the live stream, the algorithm works in a way that it gets seen by more people. Go to statusquo.com, check out all you get to be a member. We want to grow our paid membership there. Follow us on Status Quo, at Status Quo. Subscribe to our podcast. Right there. There's the link. And like us on the evil empire that is Facebook, facebook.com/Status Quo. But most importantly, like this live stream and consider becoming a member. That's how we're going to grow. So, lastly, as you know, to me, the biggest story in America is not the Russian boogeyman. Sorry to tell Hillary Clinton, Neera, Tanden, and the rest. To me, the biggest story is something called water. If you're not familiar with that, water is this liquid that you drink and it replenishes your organs and helps you grow and, does a lot of very important things for your body. It helps people live longer. It helps people have energy. It's a very important nutrient. And unfortunately, we're having crazy amounts of water poisoning. And I call it poisoning because when industrial contaminants and nuclear waste and waste products from the manufacturing of products go into your water and you drink it, you can have serious health problems. I wouldn't call that a minor nuisance. I would call that being poisoned because you're not willingly consuming these contaminants. You are literally being poisoned by them, by a government that doesn't give a shit and corporations that doesn't give a shit about your health. And one of the major contaminators of this poison is DuPont. DuPont is a major contributing to the poisoning because DuPont has manufactured a lot of very, very toxic chemicals that are not only going out into the air, but going into people's water, drinking water, that is. And DuPont has had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in legal settlements for contaminating water sources, for causing people cancer, and all those things. So now DuPont, and I covered DuPont's contamination in North Carolina while I was at the Young Turks. DuPont, which spun off into a new company called Chemours, the byproduct of their during the process of making Teflon, which is the non-stick cookware, they were dumping one of the waste products that comes from that process into the Cape Fear River in North Carolina. And the byproduct of that is called Gen X, and it's a cancer-causing chemical that they were dumping in to the river there. It's a PFOA, which are PFOA, PFAS. They're cancer-causing chemicals that come from the manufacturing of things like Teflon, non-stick cookware. So it has contaminated the drinking water. It causes cancer. They had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements in the Ohio River Valley, I believe in 2016, because they caused a lot of people cancer in the Ohio River Valley from this contamination into water bodies in the Ohio River Valley. And there's lawsuits now for them dumping contaminants into the Cape Fear River for decades. So now, you would think DuPont and their subsidiary, Chemours, would, want to fine-tune their manufacturing process to stop dumping these cancer-causing chemicals in North Carolina water bodies, in Ohio water bodies, in various other states and cities across America. Oh no. Now they want to profit in a whole nother way off of the very contamination they are causing. There's nothing more American than profiting off of your own contamination. Unbelievable. I'm sick to my stomach. So this is great reporting, actually, by The Intercept. DuPont has spread its pollution around the world. Now it wants to filter your contaminated drinking water. Oh, what a headline. Kudos to Sharon Lerner, who does great environmental reporting at The Intercept. If I could afford her, I would. She's damn good, and I learn a lot from her. And she's in partnership with the Investigative Fund. DuPont opened a factory in Saudi Arabia last week that will produce reverse osmosis water filters. So not only is DuPont a corrupt company in America, but now they're opening up factories in Saudi Arabia who murders journalists, if you haven't noticed. The Jamal Khashoggi assassination, on top of Saudi Arabia committing genocide on Yemen. But, I digress. DuPont opened a factory in Saudi Arabia last week that will produce reverse osmosis water filters. The filters use ultra-thin membranes to remove water impurities, including PFAS, which are the chemicals I just told you about, chemicals made and used by DuPont that have caused widespread water contamination around the world. Reverse osmosis is one of the technologies that the Environmental Protection Agency recommends for reducing water contamination from PFAS chemicals, which are associated with cancer, immune dysfunction, reproductive issues, and other health problems. According to the agency's website, reverse osmosis, quote, membranes are typically more than 90% effective as removing a wide range of PFAS, including shorter chain PFAS. DuPont Water Solutions, a division of Dow DuPont, that focuses on water filtration, opened the plant with a ribbon-cutting ceremony in Jubal, Saudi Arabia, on December 3rd. Quote, milestone achievement improves direct access to potable and industrial water solutions, announced a DuPont press release about the plant, which is expected to begin production early next year. The reverse osmosis business was previously owned by Dow, which has had a production facility in Minnesota since 1977 and merged with DuPont last year. The new production plant will make reverse osmosis technology to be used by the Sadara Chemical Company Complex, a joint venture by Dow and Saudi Aramco being the largest oil company in the entire world, the country's oil and gas company. The plant's filter will also be used in Saudi Arabia and other parts of the Middle East, as well as Africa, Eastern Europe, India, China, and Southeast Asia. In addition to removing industrial pollutants such as PFAS, the membranes can desalinate seawater. Quote, This new production line is providing game-changing innovation to help municipalities, businesses, and people thrive by enabling sustainable access to clean, high-quality water. Mark Doyle, Chief Operating Officer for Dow DuPont, says. An executive from DuPont Water Solutions, who is also at the ribbon cutting, emphasized the company's role in cleaning up water contamination. Quote, "We remain committed to delivering solutions that help purify and reclaim water sources, especially in areas facing water scarcity and resource challenges." Ugh, I can't read any more of this because it's such stunning. It's not even hypocrisy. It's just downright arrogance. This is the equivalent of arsonists who burn down houses for fun or profit, burning down the houses and then doing a press conference to say we're starting a company to build houses with more fireproof wood or more, less volatile material to fires. So you, the arsonists who are burning down the houses, you're going to then start a company to build stronger houses on top of the land that you burned down. This is the equivalent. So DuPont, which, by the way, floods politicians with money, floods federal regulators with money too, has contaminated water bodies all over the country since the 1950s, 60s, 70s. You need to check what's in your water that you're drinking and your kids are drinking. If you live near a DuPont factory, you definitely need to check. So DuPont is now manufacturing reverse osmosis systems, which, by the way, are not cheap for you to get your own reverse osmosis. Some people said to Flint residents, well, why don't you just get reverse osmosis? Yeah, you got a couple thousand? High Tech Hobby says it's the Hunger Games. Pretty close. It's not a bad way to look at it. So reverse osmosis, not cheap. Most working people can't afford it. Definitely poor people can't afford it. But DuPont says we are part of the solution to, deliver clean drinking water. No, you're the reason the water is contaminated. And they are allowed to continue contaminating the water because they basically write out the fines they have to pay and the settlements they have to pay for water contamination as a business expense, because it's pennies on the dollar compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars DuPont has made over the decades by recklessly contaminating your water with no regard for your water. And this is not cheesy, but water is life. If you don't drink water for 5-6 days, that's bad. You could die without water, and you could die drinking contaminated enough water. Ask the people of Flint. So it's just mind-numbing. But DuPont is allowed to do this because there's no criminal penalty for these companies, just like there's no criminal penalty for these oil companies and these fossil fuel companies that spill into the water, contaminate the wildlife, cause cancer. Because it's just, hey, all right, that's the price of doing business. We'll pay the fine. Yeah, we don't want to, but we'll pay the legal fees when we settle with people that we've caused cancer. And onward. And it's allowed because we don't live in a democracy. We don't live in a republic. We live in the United Corporations of America, aka the United States of Oil. Simple as that. So, if you want reporters that are actually going to challenge DuPont, if you want reporters that are actually going to get their ass out there, are going to go to South Dakota, where right this minute as we speak, construction activities are continuing on the Keystone Pipeline, despite a federal judge revoking Donald Trump's permit. I have that from multiple sources on the ground in South Dakota, right near the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation. They are literally disregarding a federal judge revoking the permit and saying you need to stop construction activity, called pre-construction. Right now is pre-construction before constructing the pipeline. They're blowing it off because the media is not going to challenge them, and they'll pay the fine. I would like to get to South Dakota. I would like to freeze my ass off in South Dakota in December, but we need you to get us there. There's the link. Go fund me. I don't want to just talk about these issues from the confines of my heated apartment. I want to get out there and I want to show you. Because the more we get out there in the field, the better chance of actually waking people up, of holding these companies accountable, of possibly going viral, because I got news for you. There's not much competition. There's not many outlets getting in the field on these stories. And if there are, let me know. I don't know of any. So I hope you'll consider, whether it's contributing to the GoFundMe, whether it's becoming a paid member, we need the viewers to help us get there. Long term, we're going to get there, and we're going to be out in the field as much as humanly possible. We just need the funding to do it. So that's the story, folks. As a reminder, I'll be live, obviously, 5 o'clock Eastern every day, Monday through Friday. We'll be live Sunday for our Super Chat GoFundMe marathon. And we are going to continue plucking away. So, appreciate you watching today. Hope go to the channel, watch the other videos, and also remember, go to statuscoup.com. Go to statuscoup.com, put in your email, check out what you get for becoming a member. The more we grow, the more we take on the oligarchy. Thank you for watching. Peace out.